Hello, welcome to episode 240 of Herpetological Highlights. My name's Tom Major, and co-hosting with me, as always, it's Ben Marshall. And we are back to talk about some cool herpetofauna. This is a podcast about reptiles and amphibians and the science of those animals. And we're talking today about some alligators, actually. Some alligators.
The science of those animals does kind of make it sound like it's the science conducted by those animals.
Well, they played their own part, didn't they?
Little lizards in lab coats.
That reminds me of when I was at school. There was I did an A-level in this subject called communication studies, which is like a mixture of sort of sociology and
media studies, right?
Yeah, kind of media, but a lot of it was like what are the other psychology and that kind of stuff. Like it was actually like quite technical despite the name, you know. But I remember we were sitting in a lesson, me and my mate Steve, and there was a paper that we were looking at, and it was by Gibbons et al. And we just thought that was the funniest thing ever, imagining the Gibbons conducting their research. So yeah, I guess that harkens back to where we are now. This is obviously science conducted by humans on animals or about animals. And we're talking today about Chinese alligators. So introduce the paper. This is by Li, Sun, Wang, Zhang, Gao, and Zhang, and Tu, and Wu, and Pan, 2025. Extremely limited spatial and temporal utilization for wild Chinese alligator, Alligator sinensis, published in Biology Letters, the very accessible, fun journal that is Biology Letters. Alligator sinensis is this species endemic to China, hence the name Chinese alligator.
Wasn't always, though. Wasn't always. Long in the distant past, I think they had a much wider distribution. And when I say distant past, I mean like 8,000 years ago.
Oh, yeah. They've been restricted.
But, you know, those sorts of time periods, like, I'm not sure if there's a closed case on exactly why, but habitat destruction is sort of put forth as the main reason.
And they're not the biggest crocodilians. They're primarily confined to the lower reaches of the Yangtze River in China now, but they measure 1.5 to 2.1 meters long, so that's like 5 to 7 feet. So
is
kind
of
the same.
The tail?
Yes, that includes the tail. That's the full length. So they're not massive as crocodilians go. They're sort of more on the
compact,
stocky side. Compact, and they look compact. They've got like quite a cute little, you know how some of the smaller crocodilians have like kind of a sort of shorter, I guess it's like an alligatory look.
Yes.
But like a sort of shorter, blunter face. Gives them quite an endearing quality. I like the way they look. And they're not that big. They're sort of, we're talking 36 to 45 kgs. So although they're as long as a human, they're not really as heavy as a human. Quite light paired. But yeah, they like to burrow in the mud. And, you know, living on the lower reaches of the Yangtze River is famously heavily developed. There are especially lots of dams on the Yangtze. But there's been quite a bit of effort by Chinese conservationists to conserve this species. And there are 7 decent-sized reserves where they're found.
They're critically endangered, so it is recognised that they're in trouble. So I think that's probably part of the, you know, you can use that as a wonderful motivator and bit of leverage to actually get some proper conservation effort, money, resources thrown at them.
That's the hope. That's what everyone writes in the papers. It doesn't always work out that way, but in this case,
No, it doesn't always work out that way.
Thankfully has. And yeah, so there's these nature reserves in southern Anhui province in China, and they're mostly forested areas with sort of artificial wetlands created in some areas. And that's great that they've got these sort of reserves that have been set aside for wildlife, and no doubt the forests are very useful for other animals. But Chinese alligators are generally considered to be sort of wetland specialists. You know, they're predators of the water's edge, they're crocodilians. And so they've kind of created these small artificial wetlands in the interior of these reserves. And this paper focuses on the alligators in one such reserve where there have been artificial wetlands created for their benefit. And while it's really good that those artificial wetlands have been created, giving them somewhere to live, they kind of talk about in the introduction, it tends to be the case that they're quite fragmented, tend to have these like small ponds separated by areas of less suitable habitat. There might be sort of a waterway that they're kind of in, while forests may be sort of not so good for the alligators to travel through. But they wanted to find out how these alligators were using their habitat. They wanted to find out which areas were suitable for them. They wanted to find out if there was like seasonal variations in where they go and what they do. And so they tracked a bunch of Chinese alligators. And these were animals which were released as part of a reintroduction project, right?
Yes, I'm fairly certain that's the case, isn't it?
Yeah, they were. So they sort of grow them up in captivity. They raise them. I think they breed them in captivity.
Yes.
And then they are plonking them back into these wetlands. And when they do that, they put GPS tags on their tails. They have like a nice little belt that they wrap around the tail. It looks quite comfortable as GPS tags go.
It does. And it's quite away from, the business end of a crocodile or alligator. So you can... I think the only thing that it would probably interfere with is a little bit of sort of hydrodynamics, is what I would imagine is the sort of key sort of pressure, because they're so light compared to the crocs. What are they saying? They're 46 grams compared to, what were you saying, 35, 40 kilos?
That's nothing, is it?
It's nothing. And
like having a patch of mud on its back. It doesn't even notice.
It's not gonna notice.
No. And like that is actually mental though, because if you have an animal that big, a 46 gram GPS transmitter, you can basically tick all the boxes when you're buying it. Like, yeah, we'll have that, we'll have that, we'll have that, we'll have that, we'll have that. Like, chuck it in, mate. Like, so,
yes. Backup radio transmitter. Yes.
Yes.
Fail-safe
like
release.
all that.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything. So great to study such a big animal. You lucky so-and-sos. And so, yeah, having said that, they didn't have the best success with their GPS tags. They tagged in total 32 alligators, but this paper, they only have data from, I think, nine, which had good signal consistently.
9 from 32 is it's a disappointing drop in the amount of devices you're setting out and the amount you're getting back. But we don't actually know how many devices were damaged, how many failed, or because they say significant data loss, but we don't really know what the standard is for them getting chopped off, as in removing that data from the sept, because they're saying that they kept the ones that they had over 48 data points per month, so that's at least one a day, and for over 5 months. So those other ones might still have lots of good usable data, it's just not for this enough of a period, or is there that much of an issue if you had one in that was 40 locations a month? I don't know.
Yeah, man, disgusting. Get rid of it. But no, realistically, I think what it tends, at least when I worked on stuff, like it tends to be the case that you'll be like, they have to have at least 48 locations, but you'll have one with 48, loads of like 90, and then the next one below it will be like 12. And you're like, yes, it had to have more than 48.
Well, right. But this is also part of the thing, is sometimes you're going to tailor that analysis to the realities of data collection, right? And shift how you're looking at data to account for these discrepancies so you can use as much of it as possible. 9 individuals down from 32, that's, it's sad in the sense that you'd be disappointed, but 9 individuals is still plenty to be getting on with to start off with. Some studies aim for 9 and don't even make that. So,
And these are expensive bits of kit. So yeah, they invested a lot. And I think this is a really nice paper. And so yeah, they were interested in things like how much space were the alligators using. They did that on a monthly basis to try and see if there were variations in how much area they're actually kind of occupying in a given month. And they also looked around for how sort of far they were moving within those areas as well. So that's sort of like how much distance are they actually covering. And it might be that they're not inhabiting a big area, but they're kind of going back and forth in a small area quite a lot, which would be a lot of movement, although not a lot of space use. And so, yeah, I guess we just get into that, right? Like, it seemed as though they're most exploratory between May and August, which are the kind of early summer months. Well, actually, I suppose that's most of summer, really, isn't it? They moved around quite a bit for most of the year, but they didn't really inhabit as much space as they did during May to August. So May to August seem to be the kind of times where they're probably doing the most feeding, I imagine, and most sort of traveling around. And conversely,
I mean,
they were quite...
Sorry, just jumping on that seasonality bit is another part of the analysis they were looking at was comparing it to sort of climatic influences, sort of climate, but it's more limited, right? Because it's basically within the year, so it's sort of weather patterns, really. And seeing that there was a shift in movements with temperature, but something that was also tied to rainfall, that you sort of needed temperatures to warm up to get these guys moving, but that's sort of enhanced if there was decent rainfall as well. So they had a reduced rainfall period, and that correlated with a smaller amount of movement post rainy season. So it's sort of looking like warm and wet is what these alligators are really hoping for if they're looking to be active.
Yeah. And I think if you had a gun to the head of most reptile people and you said, what do alligators like? Warm and wet. Probably wouldn't come as a massive surprise. But it really was evident. It was really evident in their behavior. And like you say, in 2021, they had quite a good wet season. And in 2022, there was much less rain. And in 2022, they moved around less following that rain. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's quite nice to have the capability to kind of compare two different years with different rainfall amounts. Because I think this area has quite a significant rainy season. And yeah, but like you say, post rainy season, they're going about their business, doing things. And the other thing they were looking at, and they used their data from where the alligators were spending their time to inform a model about habitat suitability. And if you look at their movement tracks, you can kind of see just at a glance, the alligators are kind of limited to these like water channels where the wetlands have been created. They sort of, each one seems to have quite a distinct territory, and the territories very noticeably don't overlap that much. I'm imagining these alligators probably aren't friends necessarily, except when it comes to breeding. Some of them in the sort of southern area seem to overlap a bit more, but quite a lot of distinct territories is what it appeared to me, at least at a glance.
I was just wondering, I did look at the supplements to see the sort of makeup of the different gators. I don't remember what the split was.
What, sex-wise?
Just sort of size-wise and all of that. I'm just having a look here. So we've got 3 males and 6 females. Don't have weights in this table, though.
So I guess the males are generally considered more territorial, aren't they? They are also generally larger, slightly.
Don't know off the top of my head whether that's the case. That would be
I'm just kind of
guess.
Assuming based on crocodilians in general, but yeah.
No, I don't see any weights to hand. They might be buried somewhere, but not to hand. But either way, it could be a territorial thing. It could just be we're going to subdivide resources in a reasonably sensible way, or it could just be that the sampling of individuals was nicely spaced out and they happened to get 9 that were kind of spaced out. There is some pretty serious overlap in the southeast.
Yeah, there's a few down there. Yeah, there's a few down there which are kind of inhabiting areas the same. I wonder if when they released them sort of split apart as well, because that would make sense.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like sort of motor the boat around, dump one out here, keep motoring for a bit, dump one out here.
It's also worth mentioning, like, this is a pretty substantial number of alligators in relation to the population of this area, this sort of small areas. 93 alligators are in there based on their previous surveys, and you're releasing, you've got 32 tracked. And if that was,
that's really,
that's a third of the population potentially. That's a huge. I mean, if they had all of those devices working, it would have been absolutely phenomenal to get a full. Talk about a representative sample. That would have been amazing. But even so, like, it probably takes a little bit of time for the social dynamics of these guys to smooth out and them all to find their favourite spots.
Yeah, for sure. And so their habitat suitability model is probably not that surprising. They essentially showed that alligators are relatively limited to the wetland areas. They don't really enjoy forest areas or farmland. And it was quite cool. They said they seldom penetrated further than about 15 meters into forested areas, which was a nice metric to know about.
I think that's a fantastic metric to have. And it's the sort of, so there's another paper that shares some of the authors from this one that are looking at, so we said really limited distribution now in this sort of lower Yangtze area with these sort of created protected zones. There's another paper investigating the viability of basically connecting these zones up with some sort of corridor so we can facilitate the dispersal of these alligators and basically strengthen that sort of genetic diversity by having them bounce between different populations and being able to spread freely and just generally increase the carrying capacity of these areas. That sort of information, that 15 meters, is what they're willing to maybe, push through a forest to get to the other side, maybe, something along those lines. Massively valuable when you're trying to build, trying to predict what would work as a corridor and what wouldn't work as a corridor on a much broader landscape level.
Absolutely. And it's good you bring that up because they did actually talk about that. At the end, they sort of said, what can we do for the Chinese alligators to make their lives easier? Ideally, they'd restore the Yangtze River drainage basin to its former glory, but that's probably not going to be happening anytime soon. So, like you say, habitat corridors, which they've obviously considered what they would look like if they're only willing to penetrate that short distance into forest. You'd need relatively thin forest walls for them to go through them, otherwise they wouldn't. But yeah, more wetlands, a kind of return to more natural grassland and shrubland, which I guess is a little bit more easy for them to traverse. I think a lot of the problem with forests for these guys is that they can't really thermoregulate under forest canopies. So if you've got
So they need those open areas to power up on longer journeys, maybe.
Exactly. It's like if they go into the woods, they just run out of batteries, so they got to stay away from the woods. But yeah, amazing little creatures. Not that little. I mean, they're still crocodilians. They're no joke. Like, you wouldn't want to go swimming with them. Yeah. But they're small relative to some of their relatives. But yeah, really nice paper, beautiful figures. And yeah, it's good to see that there is some conservation going on in and around the Yangtze River Basin for these alligators, because it would be a tremendous shame to lose them. And I'm sure that they are extremely beneficial in the ecosystems they inhabit. I bet you there's a lot of differences where they are and are not found.
Yeah, I suspect we will see another paper at some point that's using, if not this data, but data very, very similar, looking at more fine-scale habitat aspects, some maybe sort of micro-habitat stuff and sort of more along those lines, because they're getting pretty damn accurate locations with this. They're saying around 5 meters accuracy and a decent amount of data. If you could do a little bit more sort of fine-scale remote sensing or something along those lines to get your sort of micro-habitat metrics of sort of canopy cover and things along those lines. And then a different analysis approach, which is probably a little bit more movement focused, something like a step selection or something along those lines of trying to ID, just what the decision-making process is for the alligators themselves on a sort of day-by-day basis. I think there's more to come from this space, even with the data that they have now.
Yeah, I look forward to it. We'll do it. We'll cover it. There's very, very little research on crocodilians, particularly around I think you can count the number of times we've covered them on one hand because, there's just not, well, first of all, there aren't that many species, and also there just doesn't seem to be that much going on in terms of things we can cover. So yeah, it's nice to have them when they come.
I don't know if that's more a blind spot from us or what, but maybe we just need to look harder. I don't know. I'm not willing to say that it's a a lack of research thing. It might just be a lack of us finding it problem.
Maybe so. But let's move on, shall we? Because we're going from a crocodilian to a lizard for our Species of the Bi week. So this is a paper by Miralles, Schmidt, Rakotoarison, Delaunay, Freiwald, Rahagalala, Rakotomanga, Razafimanafo, Ratsoavina, Crottini, Raselimanana, Glaw and Vences, integrative taxonomy of Madagascar's sand-swimming skinks, and preliminary evidence for an overlooked inland belt of white sand patches across the island's west. So we're in Madagascar.
You didn't want to go from the something about swimming in artificial wetlands to swimming in sand segue or anything along those lines then?
Look, I'm very tired, Ben, for reasons we'll discuss later. So yeah, maybe you could have done a little segue. How about that? No, it's my responsibility. It's my episode. No, it's not fair. You're right. It's so obvious. It's right there in front of me.
Well, it's just such a. It was when we found this paper, we managed to both misread the title multiple times and thought it was sand swimming snakes. And was like, oh, that sounds interesting. We'll go have a look at this. And it was only when we decided, oh, this is looking good. We'll look more into it, realizing it was skinks. And not disappointed.
I had
but it was just this collective
a little bit
confusion of like, wait a second.
I was even like telling you all about the names, and I was thinking these are snakes.
Yep.
But yeah, they're not snakes. Wouldn't a brief look at the pictures have benefited either of us there?
No, that's also part of the.
But there you go.
Part of the thing. These are strange skinks.
Very strange skinks.
I think
so.
Maybe starting with painting a little bit of picture of these white sands, this white sand belt. So we're along the west coast of Madagascar here, and I don't know, sort of 15 to 10 million years ago, some pretty sizable climatic and topographical changes, I suppose, in this part of all of the world for the climatic things, but in this part of the world for some uplift of this part of Madagascar that coincides with potentially a drier bit of climate and essentially the creation of eroded down sandstone and these white sand patches along this west coast. And they describe it as a reticulated pattern somewhere in the paper, I believe. So you've got these sort of patches of white sand in amongst other areas of habitat. But it seems, judging by the existence of these sand swimming skinks, that the sandy patches, number one, they've been there long enough for 15 million years, and require animals to change themselves to make full use of it, that we get some pretty odd and specialized creatures in these patches.
Well, they're nearly perfect, aren't they? They're nearly perfect because they have virtually lost their limbs, but they do still have limbs. They're very sort of small. Is it just the front legs they've got? I think it is, right?
Yes.
Looking at them?
Yes.
I mean, they look great.
Well, it's only one of the species that has front limbs, looking at pictures.
Of the two that we're describing.
But then other members of a different genus, which is described in this paper, have, I mean, calling them back limbs is perhaps a little generous, but they're sort of there. So
it seems like some have got front. Has some got front and some have only got back? Like, what's going on
and
here?
Some have neither.
The hell? Okay, so is it a genus thing? Are the one... The hell? Some have neither? Oh my god. Yeah, because it looks like... What's the... What is it? Grandidirina is the G genus. One of them is actually called... Oh no, that's the other genus. But yeah, you're right. Some have got like Lineata there has got no legs at all. That's a very, very cool looking skink. It just looks like a perfect tube.
Like
and they've all got
paracord.
these like sort of sand... Yeah, it does. It does. It looks like, you buy the cheap chargers off Amazon. Green and black. Yeah, that we're talking about. Crazy. It does look like that. It's like sort of reticulated, I guess you could say, because there's like a marker around. Each scale has like a black line around it, and they're sort of yellow.
Very regular.
Very regular. Very regular. And these little things have got very, very shovel-like faces, and they have eyes, and they look like the scales over the eyes are quite ossified. Like, I can't imagine they can see too good, but they do have eyes. They look a little bit like wombles, some of them.
I do see what you're saying with the womble-like snout.
Do our American audience know about wombles? Maybe not.
Well, I mean, it's time for them to track down some old womble footage and to learn about them and really take on the lessons that the wombles tried to impart on the world. And I think it's really fallen on deaf ears, and it's about time we re-listen to the wombles.
There's no time like the present to actually listen to what the wombles had to say. Check them out. So I think, yeah, these lizards are actually bonkers. And the ones that we're talking about, some of them are pink. Just going to the whole, there's like two genera. Some of them are sort of colourful. Some of them are very pink. The ones we're talking about today, I would say, are two of the more plain ones. Although I do have a bit of a soft spot for animals which are kind of quite plain in colour. And one of the two species is sort of, it starts off pink and then it goes a bit more sort of grey in the middle. And then it's more yellow at the end. I don't know if that goes for all the individuals, but certainly the one they have in this picture. And they have, let's talk about the names, shall we? So we've got
Which one would you?
This genus is Voltskawia, and the first one is Voltskawia shaihulud, which is the one named after the thing from the film.
Well, probably from the books more than film.
From the books.
We're talking about Dune.
I've not read the books.
It's
talking about Dune.
Yes, it's the.
Have to say, mate, banging films, unbelievable films. I saw Dune 2 in the cinema twice. I really enjoyed it. I don't know, giving things contemporary names after media.
Contemporary. The book was published in 1965. it's less and less contemporary as it goes. It's been recontemporized.
It's contemporary. Yeah. Well, it's contemporary relative to the skinks,
Oh, yeah, that's well, no, they're contemporary too. They're still around.
Yeah, they are contemporary, but they're also old. They've been around for a long time.
They've been around for 10 to maybe 15 million years, I suppose.
Anyway, so they called it shaihulud, which is derived from Shai Hulud, which is the name given by the Fremen people to the mythical giant sandworms of the planet Arrakis, also known as Dune, in the eponymous science fiction novel published by Frank Herbert in 1965. So, it makes sense, right? These things slither about in the sand. They are kind of like, but they're not giant, though. They're small.
Well, give them time.
You can catch it in a pitfall trap. It's not exactly a threat to humanity.
Give them time.
But
maybe if there was more sand, they'd get bigger. They're quite big relative to the sand patches, perhaps.
They'd need some much bigger prey to eat if they were going to be comparable to the Shai Hulud, the big sandworms. But hey, that's what they've gone for.
They're 80. So we're saying they're much smaller. They're about 80 millimeters.
Yeah, it's tiny. It's a joke. But they're really cool, though. Can't deny that. They are cool. And the other one is
Volontani,
so
which is Malagasy for beige or brown, which is the darker coloured of the two. So it's got these sort of browny beige dorsal coloration to separate a little bit. Which I love a name that describes how the animal looks. So when I see the animal, I'm like, that'll be the brown beige one.
And we used the Malagasy word there, which is cool as well. Like that. Yeah, I like that one. So
rolls off the tongue.
This one, actually, the Volontani, that's a cool word. It has never been directly observed. The species was collected by local assistants after these scientists had visited the site. So I guess they didn't manage to get much information.
Bit of a mystery.
But yeah, they can apparently sometimes see tracks in the sand, like sinusoidal tracks, so serpentine-looking tracks. No tracks were observed in the sand for these ones.
So
we don't know what they're doing.
But they're
so mysterious.
Every indication that they are quite limited in distribution. Because all these sand patches are quite, they're disconnected. I was saying about the reticulated pattern of how they're spread across the landscape does mean that it's not looking brilliant for these guys' ability to jump between patch to patch. So very limited range. No idea how many there are. We've got no idea what the carrying capacity of a single sand patch is if you can't, if it's hard to even directly observe them. So, yeah, could be at great risk because of their limited distribution.
All it takes is someone to start collecting sand somewhere, and these things will have to go and live somewhere else. And
yeah, I can't imagine they have the greatest dispersal ability.
No. And like you said, these sand patches have been around for a while, and it's probably responsible for the diversification.
Yep, they're like little. They're almost
14 million years ago,
or something along those lines. Is sort of the way I'm picturing the way it's described, like these
sand pits,
disconnected from other sand pits. But you really have to make a go of it and adapt to the sand way of life. And these guys have. And
do we know what they eat?
I don't. I looked through the natural history thing and I don't remember seeing anything about diet.
It'll be like beetles, or it'll be like a larvae, or it'll be something along those lines.
It's gotta be tiny bugs. There's not a mention of diet
Either
in the
way.
paper anywhere. But I mean, they're little. They're little. I mean, what else could they be eating?
They're little predators. They've got to be eating something else which is little and doesn't almost
Little
certainly
bugs.
doesn't
It's got to
have
be little bugs.
a skeleton. Yeah, but really cool. Really, really cool. Obviously, welcome to science. Congrats to the authors. Really cool paper. And I think that's about it for these sand swimming skinks from the genus Volskowia. Any other business? I've got a bit of any other business today. So, yeah, we had a bit of a break from the podcast. That's partly because I became a dad. So I've got a little baby boy called Felix.
Way!
So I think that's deserved, particularly for Maya. But yeah, we've had a little baby back in mid-January. So that's been keeping us very occupied. I've been fortunate. I had a couple of weeks paternity leave, and now I'm taking a month off work just to chill out and be a dad. So just kind of been doing that. And this was the first sort of week where I felt I could collect myself enough to actually do a podcast. And you've been traveling and stuff as well, haven't you? But it's amazing being a dad. It's really, really fun. I love my baby boy a lot. And it's also very hard and they get very little sleep. So podcasting is back on though, which is really nice. So that's sort of my big news. Aside from that, I just wanted to mention that I was working on volunteering on a BBC documentary, Wild London. So myself...
the Escalapian stuff, the London Escalapian snakes, right?
The London Escalapians, yeah. So we were doing surveys, me, my friends, Ben Wilkie and Connor Hill. Ben Wilkie sort of organised the whole thing. He's the guy who sort of started off the whole Escalapian snakes in London thing, and he brought me along. So together we've been kind of monitoring the population with our other friend Connor Hill, and like ZSL have been really helpful too. And they're sort of collaborating with us on the whole thing. And yeah, been great, like giving us access and like giving us information, all that stuff. Like it's been really, really cool, really, really fun. And we're starting to get a handle on how many there are.
So how many?
But the film crew, how many? I mean,
go on.
I'm not confident. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it because like I haven't like I don't think my analysis is like what it needs to be. So I'm not going to say yet. But it's
not even.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's like. I'd say it's less than like 40.
Okay, I'm perfectly happy with that answer. That's all I was looking for. I didn't want you. You don't need to commit to a number. You've
squeezed it out of me, and if it turns out to be wrong, I'll look a fool. But luckily, not that many people care. So yeah, we helped out them filming the first episode of Wild London. It was a really fun day out. The film crew were awesome. The day I was out, we actually didn't find a snake despite our best efforts. It was like 30 degrees and baking hot. But luckily they'd found one previously. So all the footage in the documentary, it's only like a 2-minute bit just because we didn't get that many snakes and we didn't want to film individual snakes for too long. So it's not cool to keep mucking them about. They're wild animals. So sort of set quite a strict time limit of what we would say was okay to do with the snake.
So you didn't grab a pet Escalapian and just sort of, tie it to a little bit of string and
No,
have it go about.
Like I'm not above doing that, and neither are most film crews. But we didn't have access to an Escalapian easily to hand. It was all done quite short notice. So yeah, but we did get some footage of an Escalapian sort of crossing a path and climbing up a tree, which was nice, and it made it into the documentary. And I thought the little segment they did, narrated by David Attenborough, no less, was really nice. So
fantastic.
Yeah, kudos to everyone involved. Connor, I think it was actually one of the film crew that spotted the snake that was featured. It definitely wasn't me, but Connor does most of the snake spotting generally, along with our other collaborator and friend Rob Fryer. Like those two are the main like snake spotters. Rob used to work at the zoo, so he like knows basically where all the snakes are. He's like a snake-seeking missile. And Connor is a full-time ecologist who just like does not muck about. He's got eyes. Ben's really good as well, but I think me and Ben have just been unlucky with like spotting stuff.
mean, it's it's animal stuff. It's looking for snake stuff. Like you can.
I do, only because I tend to be quite good at it. I maintain that it is entirely skill-based. So kudos to the skills of the snake spotters. But yeah, so that was cool. So check it out. BBC, it's Wild London. It's on BBC iPlayer. If you're in America, set up a VPN, pretend you're English, and you can watch it too. Definitely worth a look. Aside from that, we got some new patrons, Gav Poll and Stephen Swampy Giles. So thank you very much to you guys.
Apologies
for becoming our
to
patrons.
folks supporting the podcast that there hasn't been an episode for a little bit. It does weigh on us.
It does.
We are doing our best.
Don't feel good about it. We are. We massively appreciate the fact that you stick with us despite that. And if you wanting, like, all our patrons get a sticker in the post, and if you're a patron who's like a certain bracket, you can pick an episode. If you're waiting on a sticker, or you want a sticker and you haven't got one, send us a message, either an email or on Patreon, and we'll get one sent to you. Similarly, if you do an episode topic choice, just get in touch. We will absolutely do it. I'm just a bit behind on admin of those things, but like, we will always honor those requests.
For very reasonable reasons, as you've just highlighted.
Yeah. A lot of people just are happy to contribute anyway, and they're maybe like, they're not so fussed. So, but if you want one, we'll do it. We'll find it.
Do not be afraid to ask.
Yes. And I also just wanted to say a big thank you to a loyal listener and hype man of the podcast, Dan Coulson, who is a friend who has been traveling around with my brother-in-law Tara and his partner Emma, and he's basically just apparently been advertising our podcast all over the globe as like a world traveler. Yeah, and like, all I'm hearing is this guy's like pure hype man. So thank you, Dan, and I hope you and Izzy have good luck in Australia. They've just moved to Australia, so yeah, send me some picture of snakes in and around Brisbane. That would be really cool. But yeah, shout out. So yeah, I think I haven't got any other business. Have you got any other business?
I have one tiny little bit of any other business, because I know that you'll appreciate this. I saw my first and second wild leaf chameleon, Paleonassus, over while we were not recording podcasts. And they are more beautiful in real life than you could possibly imagine. They are absolutely magnificent. Tiny and perfect.
How tiny? Are we talking like a thumb or smaller?
No, these ones were sort of with tail length of a finger.
Oh, wow. And what about the face?
It was chameleon-like and pointed.
Wow. Cute face though.
They were absolutely marvellous. One was male, one was female, so we had grey and brown sort of morphs that we got to see. One being sort of slimmer and less leaf-shaped, and the other being more leaf-shaped. Absolutely stunning.
Ah, that's so cool. And how did you manage to spot them?
By going along a known transect with people far more talented at spotting herpetofauna than me, who do it professionally.
The best way. Okay, yeah.
I did not
the experts.
spot the Paleon with my own two eyes.
Yeah, that's classic, mate. I thought you'd say as much. Like, it strikes me as an animal which you really need to like go out with either an expert, a guide. Those things are also, usually pretty close to each other.
Well, this was all of the above. Yes.
Expert guide. If you want to see reptiles and amphibians, just get an expert guide, someone who knows the area, because at the very least they'll have seen one somewhere before and they'll know where to start. So yeah, that was the same for me when I saw the chameleon in Namibia, the Namaquensis. Like, it was a guide who was just like, hey, walk up this dune and see if you spot anything. And you were supposed to like not say anything so you didn't ruin it for everyone. And I was like, like straight away. I was so excited. He was like, yeah, I was going to see if the kids could spot it. And I was like, yeah, they know where it is now, mate.
Yeah, well, this kid did spot it. I spotted it real good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm bigger than the other kids, but I'm more excited than them as well. So whatever. Anyway, it was pretty sweet. It was pretty sweet. That's awesome, mate. Good luck. Good on you and congratulations. It sounds like well worth a trip to Madagascar.
Oh my God.
For that.
Absolutely amazing. That was magic. Absolutely magic.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that just about wraps it up for this episode. If you want to get in touch with us, you can. herphighlights@gmail.com is the way to do that. Patreon.com/herphighlights if you want to become our patron and support the podcast. That is massively appreciated. Aside from that, I think all that remains to be said is thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.